It's very hard to come by things that can change how you feel in an instant. Give you a fresh feeling, a system reboot of sorts. But in the most unexpected time, I found exactly that. After a long day of managing my inventory, finding a way to escape, and barely making it to my safe house in time, I had to defend my home from every possible monster lurking in the darkness. I watched shapes move outside the window, desperately clenching the only thing that I could use to defend myself. The intensity stayed at a consistent level, never changing, but always terrifying me. Until I find these types of moments to be some of the most memorable in any game. The first time you find that typewriter in Resident Evil Village, or the time in Resident Evil 4 you see the cloaked stranger that's only known as the Merchant. The simplicity of these moments, the typewriter, the merchant, the infamous bonfire lit message, are all such comforting moments in games that don't give you any space to breathe. These games are all merciless. They make you fight for your own survival as if this was John Wick 3. They give you a weapon, some bullets, and an encouraging push to explore whatever dark and docile corners you can find. It's the perfect balance between managing the tension of the outside world, with the comfort of an ambient melody and a warm light next to you. It's a breath of fresh air, a moment to finally rest after fighting for so long. It's finding comfort in danger. The concept of checkpoints and safe areas is quite simple at first. After a tough, grueling boss battle, fighting a horde of enemies, or encountering an area that is terrifying and suspenseful, you step inside a room that is exactly the opposite of that. Comforting music plays in the background as you finally get to catch your breath and save your progress. Additionally, games like Dark Souls also allow you to level up and manage other aspects of your character within the bonfires of the world. But looking deeper, there's much more to these areas that need to be addressed, namely the intensity of the game. For example, Resident Evil's games are set in a merciless world with infected villagers, genetically engineered monsters, and things that I can only describe as eldritch horrors, attacking you at select points in the games. These games make you filled with adrenaline by simply putting you in an environment where you could be attacked, making you watch your back at any chance possible. With the combat of these games also being very intense, mostly due to the strength and severity of the situations you're put in, I have no doubt that if these games wouldn't have these safe rooms, you'd end up becoming less scared of the world. The contrast between these two concepts is a complicated and sharp edge to walk on. If these games in particular didn't have these contrasting areas that let you rest for a moment, you'd end up getting used to the environments you're in way faster, which would lead to you not feeling on edge anymore, and down the line might end up ruining parts of the games that is integral to it, namely the atmosphere. Atmosphere is an even deeper rabbit hole, and it's probably the thing that I talk about most on this channel. For games to feel terrifying or suspenseful, you need some sort of atmosphere that allows that to happen. And it's incredibly easy to get accustomed to one atmosphere as long as you spend enough time in it. This is why if you play through a horror game and come back to it, you feel less scared. So, how do you prevent this? You introduce a contrasting element, a safe room, a bonfire. Something comforting that guarantees safety for the player as long as they are there. Not only does this take the player away from the environment, which prevents it from getting stale, but it also boosts the entire game's atmosphere. Rather than a one-sided world that's purely dangerous or purely scary, it adds another dimension to it. It adds complexity, nuance to the world. This complexity, brought about by the contrasting areas, can also completely change your perspective of the world and even the characters, reinforcing the idea that the game's world isn't purely one-sided. Also helps bring home the fact that the other aspects of a game aren't one-sided either. Looking at games like Dark Souls, The checkpoints you encounter also serve the narrative. A bonfire with the infamous cold sword stuck into the middle, with skulls, bones, and ash remaining from years and years of this specific bonfire being used. At the bonfire, you can refill your Estus flask. You can attune spells, travel through locations, and organize items at these checkpoints. And when looking further, it feels like there's more to it. It feels like there's an even deeper connection to the lore than many think. The traveling aspect in particular makes me think that these are gateways to different parts of the world. Every time you find a new location and rest at the bonfire, you can then travel to that location later down the line. It's a simple mechanic that seems to hold a lot more to it. After playing these games for years, every time I hear the sound of that bonfire, it always makes me take a deep breath and think about how far I've come. As Dark Souls is a game where you're constantly looking for any bonfire's safety, this world is grueling, unfathomably evil in some corners, and you're guaranteed to die on your journey. But when approaching these bonfires, everything seems okay, even if it is just for a moment. In concept, it's quite easy to understand. But execution is what matters, which is exactly where games like Dark Souls, Resident Evil, and a few others shine brighter than others. Before I let you go, I just wanted to first of all thank you for the support. Whether that be a simple like on a video, a comment, or even making it this far into the video, helps me out a ton. To celebrate another year on this platform, I'll be spending the next month or so focusing on a longer video that will be way more in-depth and rich than my previous videos. It's gonna be based on a game that I really think deserves more attention, and it's the reason why this video is quite short compared to my last one. With that said, if you want to support me, like, comment, or subscribe. It's completely free and you can unsubscribe anytime.